Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you my spring reading recommendations. So for where we live, it goes like, I feel like we don't have spring. It literally just goes from winter straight to summer with like one little small like maybe week of spring and then we get that. So I don't really get to enjoy the kind of spring weather. So it's hard for me to find books that I can kind of like feel like remind me of the kind of current environment and temperature of spring. So these are ones that thematically have like a kind of theme of kind of new beginnings. And so just because, you know, spring, the new plants are coming out and wildlife and all those things, so I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick to the theme of new beginnings. So these are books that have some of that themes that I enjoy, that I think you guys would like to read during this time of year as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I first had A Fall of Marigolds by Susan Mesner, and this is actually the first Tales and Teacups book club pick, I think want to say back in like 2017, 2018. So it has been a long haul with this one, but essentially it's a dual storyline where it follows a woman who is dealing with the loss of her husband who died 10 years ago in the World Trade Center during 9/11, and then we also follow this other woman who's dealing with her own sense of loss 100 years before that during what it was known as, I think it's the Triangle Workshop fire essentially. So yeah, the Triangle Shirtwaist fire, which was a very big kind of tragic moment in New York City. So we follow both these two women dealing with their grief and trying to kind of progress with their life, kind of not necessarily move on, but to kind of start living again as they're kind of dealing with these tremendous amounts of grief, having lived through these horrific events. And the one thing that connects these two women is a scarf of marigolds, and it kind of goes off from there. But I think this one, if you guys like historical fiction, I think you guys will love this, and especially because it ties in such a relatively kind of recent kind of terrorist attack, like a very kind of poignant part in modern day history. I think this one is really eye-opening, and just how it talks about grief I think is really important as well. I feel like a lot of people have gone through similar experiences with this, and kind of working it out with these characters as they kind of progress into actually living at that point, I think is really good, and this book does a really good job with that as well. And it also kind of has like flowers on it, so I did get kind of a spring theme with this one. Next up, I have Breath of Scandal by Sandra Brown, and I actually was in a huge Sandra Brown phase, I want to say back in like 2017, 2018, and I haven't read any of her books in a while, so I think that's an author, after I finish the books that are currently on my TBR, like more books of hers I would like to kind of purchase in the future. But essentially this one centers around this girl who lives in this small town, and when she is in high school, she ends up getting gang raped by kind of a group of popular boys in the town, and this town kind of basically pushed her out because of that. So she spent years kind of plotting her revenge, and we finally get her to kind of this book centered around that revenge and kind of getting all that stuff sorted out. But this book does a good job at talking about rape culture and kind of slut shaming and all those things as well. I think it does a really good job at bringing those topics to light, and how we always tend to blame the victim in these situations, or side with the, you know, the ones that have like power or kind of popularity. So this one does a really good job with that. But in terms of new beginnings, we follow Jade kind of get that new kind of beginning, like starting her life over after everything that happens. Her life is now in her control, like trying to see her kind of follow that, I think was really well done. So yeah, if you're looking for like a really a good page turner, then I highly recommend you check this one out. So next up, this is one that kind of has a springy feel to it. It is The House of Riverton by Kate Morton, and I read this one a long time ago as well. But essentially, if you're fans of Downton Abbey, I think you will like this, because it follows kind of the last kind of era of these houses, like these kind of Victorian style practices. So it kind of follows that. So we follow these two girls that are really good friends. One is a servant, one is kind of the nobility of the early 1900s, kind of following them as they grow up. And then we kind of flash forward to this woman who's kind of on her last days, and she's approached by this video director to kind of talk about her time working in these houses, and it kind of gives flashbacks to a murder that took place there. And so this one I think is just like, because I just think of the English countryside with just kind of green grass. It's wet, it's like foggy out. Like this one kind of reminds me of springtime as well. It just kind of has that atmosphere to it, or what I would imagine spring to be like if we actually had like a decent amount of springtime here. But yeah, this one is really good. If you like I said, if you like Downton Abbey, if you like The Crown, if you like those kind of period dramas, then I think you will like this one as well. And also has like a mystery aspect to it. So this is one that is actually taking place in spring. So I was like, you know what, there's like Easter eggs on the cover, and I'm like, you know what, this one just screams spring for me. And it is The Cruelest Month by Louise, and I think this is the third book in the Inspector Gamache series, but each book takes place in a different season. So I think we first start out in the fall, then winter, then spring, then summer, and this one happens to fall in the springtime, which I thought was really relevant. And it kind of, a lot of like what I love about this writing style, or this series in particular, is that it takes place in this quaint Quebec town, and I can just see it, like it's just picturesque in my mind with like stone housing, you know, the mountains in the background, and just kind of, especially in this one, it's kind of the transition from winter to spring. So we kind of get where it's like cold, but then it's also kind of warm and just wet. And like I said, it has the broken Easter egg on it. So I was like, you know what? This is just a spring book. But in general, the premise of this series in particular, it follows Inspector Gamache, who's the head of homicide of Quebec, and he ends up getting involved with these kind of murders that happen to involve people of the small town of Three Pines, and it kind of goes off from there. If you like Gilmore Girls in that sense of like kind of quaint towns and just everyone knows each other and that kind of found family feeling, then I think this is for you. My goal is to kind of marathon this series throughout the rest of 2021 because I want to be caught up, so we'll see if I'm able to accomplish that. But this is like probably one of my favorite kind of crime series that I found recently, and it also takes place in Canada, so it reminds me of home. And lastly, this is one that does have the theme of new beginnings, and it's one that I've read recently that I've really enjoyed, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I will say that this is my first ever V.E. Schwab book, and I was pleasantly surprised actually, because I feel like a lot of her other books I just was never interested in their like concept or anything like that. So this one was my like first experience in this author, and I've seen this book everywhere, and I was just like, you know what, I was intrigued by the concept and I picked it up and really liked it, so I think you guys will like it too. So it follows this girl named Addie who in the early 1700s ends up running away on her wedding day, and she is approached by the devil, and she makes a deal with him that essentially she doesn't want to belong to anyone, she doesn't want to have ties to like be owned by anyone, she doesn't want to have ties to, or connections to those people. And so he kind of twists that in a way so that no one will remember her, and so she goes out 300 years of her life with no one remembering who she is. She can like have a conversation with someone, they can walk out and come back in 30 seconds later and they won't remember who she is. So she's been kind of navigating her life, kind of going about kind of trying to leave her mark on people. And so this all changes when she walks into a bookstore in New York City and this person remembers her, and it goes off from there. The only thing I didn't really like about this one was how heavy in the romance it was, but I feel like I was still very intrigued in the overarching narrative of Addie and just her kind of game of back and forth with her and Luke the devil, because he wants her to give up and just kind of surrender her soul to them, and she's adamant that she doesn't want to do that. So they kind of have like this game of back and forth going about. So if you like that, and she's kind of trying to start her new life and actually is kind of learning to live in here as well, but if you kind of like this concept, I think you'll like it. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the romance in here, but I was still intrigued enough and engrossed enough in the story that I didn't mind it that much. But overall, I think you guys would like this one as well. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your spring reading recommendations are and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.